The time is 7:36. I apologize for running a few minutes late from our work session, but I'll call to order the public hearing and regular business meeting of the Mayor and Council for the City of Snellville, Georgia for Monday, August the 22nd, 2022 to order. We do have everyone present. We have a quorum, and we'll start tonight with our invocation to be given by Catherine Hardrick.
Friends, let us pray. Our God, we give you all the praise and all the glory. We thank you for blessing us to see another day, to do your will, and lift your holy name. We ask that you bless us all that we may be more Christ-like, more loving, more kind, and more forgiving. As your word teaches us in Luke 11:28, blessed are those who hear the word of God and obey it. We pray that you open the minds and the hearts of the mayor and council, that they may first seek your will, hear your word, and obey it as they govern your city, your flock. We ask, Lord God, that they lead with compassion and empathy, loving thy neighbor as thyself. Lord God, we ask that you protect our mayor and city council, and you bless them with wisdom as they make tough decisions. We ask that you, Lord God, protect our mayor and council. We ask, Lord God, that you also protect our children and our schools, our city and communities. And Lord God, we ask that you keep a light in our hearts, that we shall always remember the brave women and men who serve to protect our nation, our freedom. We ask all these things in your Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Hardrick. And now we'll have the pledge to the flag to be given by Snellville Girl Scout Troop 16222. Thank you, ladies. We appreciate you coming out and doing that for us tonight. And now we have one item that's not listed on our agenda under ceremonial matters. We have a special guest, Freddie Broom, who is with the Georgia Municipal Association, and he has a presentation to give to Councilmember Todd Warner. Mr. Broom?
Well, good evening. My name is Freddie Broom. I'm here from Georgia Municipal Association, and we're here tonight in honor to present Councilman Warner with GMA's GMA Certificate of Recognition. Our certificate of recognition is achieved once a member has logged 42 training hours of courses provided by Carl Vinson Institute of Government in partnership with Georgia Municipal Association. Councilmember Warren has committed his personal time to bettering his understanding of municipal functions, key issues, and resources, which is an investment in your community. Councilman Warren is always mindful of issues regarding local government and stays in touch with GMA's government relations team, which relies on insights from our local leaders to fight against legislations harmful to quality of life and municipal operations. On behalf of GMA's CEO and Executive Director Larry Hanson and the staff at GMA, we thank you for your service to the City of Snellville and your commitment to learning. So tonight we're here to issue this award and a certificate of recognition on behalf of your training.
Thank you, Freddie, for coming out tonight. We appreciate you being here. And now we'll move to the minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes of the August 2nd, 2022 special called meeting and the August 8th regular meeting.
There is a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. That is, what have we got?
I'm abstaining because I wasn't present.
Okay, so we've got one abstention and we've got 5 votes for. 5 for, none opposed with 1 abstention. So the minutes are approved. We have no invited guests or committee or departmental reports, so we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve today's agenda, Monday, August 22nd, 2022.
There's a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. That is 6 in favor with none opposed. We do have 3 items under our public hearing. I will read some information for everyone in the audience tonight, and this is just our general procedures when we're doing public hearings. In order to help everyone have an equal opportunity to be heard and minimize distractions, I ask the audience to please silence or turn off any electronic communication devices. I would like to remind everyone present that this is an official public meeting at which important business is conducted. The city attorney has advised the council that audience outbursts, including applause, have been used by the courts to overturn zoning decisions. Therefore, I ask that you refrain from applause and all other extraneous remarks. Each side will be allowed a total of 15 minutes for support and 15 minutes in opposition to each of the hearings. This is not per person, but in total. So you may wish to consider coordinating your arguments beforehand or consider having a spokesperson present your position. If council members ask questions of you, it will not be deducted from your time. Should you have the opportunity to come to the microphone to make a comment in support or in opposition to any of the requests before us, please state your name and address for the public record before beginning. Also, direct all of your comments to myself and the council and not to the applicant or another speaker. So we'll begin with our first item on our public hearing. Item A is second reading LUP 2201, consideration and recommendation on a proposed amendment to the Snellville 2040 Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map for the 23.61 plus or minus acre parcel 51000065 and 18.04 plus or minus acre parcel 5100023 from commercial retail to Highway 78 East Activity Node. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and public for being here tonight. This was originally proposed back in February 22nd of 2022 as an area that the staff identified as a place where we could extend the retail or the Highway 78 East Activity Node future land use to help promote that character area, which is one of the least developed in the city. It would also encourage clustered, connected mixed-use development at the eastern node of Highway 78. The activity node to the north is currently well-defined, but the red area, which is right now commercial retail, is the relic of a unseen or failed development plan by Kroger to move the giant Kroger there. So what we've done is after we identified this area, and then within the Unified Code or the UDO, we have a specific zoning category that you can zone into. This would just be a first step to let everyone know that we are accepting and encouraging of this type of development that's found in the Highway 78 East Activity Node. So we recommend approval to amend the future development and land use map, as indicated here, from the red to the pink, indicating a change from commercial retail to 78 East activity node.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Are there any questions of the council for Mr. Thompson?
Mr. Thompson, please excuse me if I'm getting you to repeat something, but can you just briefly explain what a 78 activity
Sure.
and retail node would
Sure.
encompass?
When we were going through the comprehensive plan, it was there was a sentiment that was held by almost all the citizens, was to limit development, at least commercial development, on the east end of 78, so we don't end up with kind of the same thing that happened on the west end, where you're fighting, through some old properties, and then to actually designate areas in these activity nodes. We have one there. I think we have one at Grayson Highway there, and Rockdale, that little activity node, to basically have pulse development in these nodes where there may be a little higher density and a more mixture of uses, but to keep it connected and grid to reduce traffic and provide a walkable environment, unlike what most of the residential that we have in the city is now. So it was basically just the extension across the street. As you can see, it's already to the north and east, and this is a lot of land that probably isn't going to be developed commercially.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Any other council members have a question of Mr. Thompson? Nope. And this is actually the city bringing this forward, so we do not have an applicant. And again, just to clarify too for the audience members, what we're doing here is changing a designation on a future development map or future land use map. We are not rezoning property for any type of specific development that's being proposed at this point. With that explanation by Mr. Thompson, this is a public hearing. So I will open the floor to public comment. Anyone who would like to speak for this change in the future land use map, then please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one speaking for, then I will open the floor to anyone who is opposed to the change to the future land use map. Seeing no one rushing for the microphone, I will again close the floor to public comment. So that closes the floor to public comment. So the public hearing on that item is now closed. So I will entertain a motion from council.
Motion to approve LUP 22-01 as read by the mayor.
There is a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any comment by council?
I would just like to reiterate that what we're doing is changing the land use. So instead of having a big box retail center at the corner of 78 and Rosebud, we're looking to have something that's a little more downsized, something that's more in line with what we're doing in the town center. Not quite that intense, but it should get us to a nice balanced development rather than a great big box center or large retail, or just nothing but a housing / apartment development. We want something that has a nice, good, stable mix of uses.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Anyone else? Then I will ask for the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. That is 6 in favor, so none are opposed. Now we will move to item B, second reading, RZ 22-04, LUP 22-04. Consideration and action on applications by CKK Development Services LLC, the applicant, and Larry Gardner, property owner, requesting Item A, to amend the official zoning map for the city of Snellville, Georgia, from BG General Business District to RTH Townhome Residential District. B, to amend the Snellville 2040 Comprehensive Plan future land use map from commercial retail to medium-density residential. C, and request variances from the small residential building standards, minimum building setbacks, and sidewalk and planter strip requirements for a 27-unit lot townhome development on a 3.43 plus or minus acre site located adjacent to the Old Hickory Village subdivision, 2045, 2055, 2065, and 2075 East Main Street, Snellville, Georgia. And those are tax parcels 5059248, 485, 486, and 487. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, we have RZ 22-04 and Land Use Plan Amendment 22-04 as well. The request for rezoning and a land use plan amendment for properties 2045 through 2075 East Main Street, as you can see above. It's the site plan, it's 3.5 acres. It's made up of 4 parcels, currently zoned BG, or general business, which was a result of a zoning, I believe, a little over 5 years ago, where the city gave the property owner permission to erect a pretty large doctor's office, some other commercial uses, and I believe a daycare. That development never really came to light. I guess it just wasn't financially feasible there. They're here to request, instead of BG, RTH, this was our residential townhome district, for 27 units, single family townhome community. That puts, with the 27 units, that puts you at a 7.87 units per acre, which falls within the medium density designation, which is between 4 and 8 units per acre. They are proposed to contain a minimum of 1,800 square feet in size, with each unit having a 2-car garage. Some of the elevations that they've provided. The sides and the rear will include a 3-foot high brick or stacked stone water table, with the remainder being fiber cement. We've also requested some variances from the small town, or small house residential building standards. We'll get into those just one second. It is located on the edge of the, hold on one second, 78 East and Character area, and it's kind of towards the very edge of that, if you can see. Again, it's been proposed to have a couple different kind of development types. Seems like the market hasn't yielded returns on those. I believe the current owners had it for over 10 years now. It does meet the key implementation strategies of the land use plan amendment analysis within the comprehensive plan. It also has many goals that are compliant with the 2040 comprehensive plan to reduce the development of additional strip commercial uses, encourage the development of diversity of housing types. Currently, I believe Snellville is in the 90th percentile in single-family detached housing. It also encourages compatible uses with the commercial down the street, and provides what we see as kind of a step down buffer for the residents of Old Hickory, who will be here later to speak on the application. They have requested a couple of variances that we've opined about, and additionally they requested variances. One setback variance where it abuts Old Hickory, where the actual brick wall has meandered kind of in and out of their property, in some cases up to 8 feet, I believe. So initially they were just going to request a setback reduction there. But instead, after having the meeting, they've now proposed to shift those all forward and take that extra 10 feet out of the 40-yard setback on the front, and then buffer that up with some plantings to kind of provide a screening for the backs of those homes. So we recommend approval for that variance. As part of some of these small residential building standards, it's important to remember that most of these are for single-family detached homes. And there's some, because it's a required code, that we have to consider based on the different building type. This next one is one. The applicant is requesting to allow more than 40% of the front building facades for windows and doors. And when you add in the width of a townhome and then the width of the two-car garage, that easily gets you over that. So based on the renderings that we have submitted, we recommend approval for that one. The UDO also prescribes a front porch as a raised structure. It's not something you typically see on a townhome. Again, it's more for a single family detached product. And they ask it to be allowed to not do that and just instead have their normal setback for their front patio and then the door. And we recommend approval for that. And the last one that they are requesting is actually to do with the sidewalks. The existing sidewalk on 78 is 5 feet. I think it's now required to be 6. And also the 2-foot wide planter strip. We feel like that sidewalk is adequate. It's already in place. There's no reason to tear it up to add an additional foot to it. And when it comes down to it, the Georgia DOT prescribes the beauty strip there, and typically they run a 2-foot no matter what. They don't like much bigger than that. So in conclusion, we recommend approval of the LUP, the RZ, approval of the variances that I stated, approval of the variance for the streetscape, and there's a denial in the staff report, but I'm going to knock that out. So basically to approve the variance to move the site up 10 feet from the brick wall. There's some conditions. I think it's important that we probably read these so everybody understands what the expectation is when we get to discussion. So these are the ones that staff has recommended in the ordinance. There's also 3 that I believe the HOA's attorney would like to introduce, and I'll let him do that. I've also provided you with a copy if you so choose to include them. But the conditions, the variances first are to allow for a variance from UDO section 201 3.3E1, which is to exceed more than 40% for windows and doors. Variance 201 3.3E2, not require a front porch or stoop. Variance to allow the streetscape to exist and as is, and variance to reduce the 50-foot minimum site back along streets to 40-foot where the US Highway 78 is, and that's to accommodate that 10 feet off the rear. And then the other one is the typical number 1, to link it to a site plan, which is what we've done to what I showed you. The homeowners association shall be established. Number 3, the development and townhome units are to be deed restricted, at least 90% owner occupied fee simple single family ownership, while the remaining 10% may be used as non-occupied units, non-owner occupied. This condition must be incorporated in the HOA documents and the covenants prior to the release of any COs. Signs higher than 15 feet, 22 larger than 222 square feet, 25 are prohibited. All access and maintenance easements shall be established and granted to the Old Hickory Village Homeowners Association for the 600 plus feet of existing solid brick wall and columns located along the northern property line. An access and maintenance agreement shall be granted to Old Hickory HOA for the existing solid brick Hickory Village subdivision sign. The existing 5-foot wide sidewalk and 2-foot planter strip were adjacent to 78 shall continue easterly to the property line abutting 5059233. All project access improvements or modifications within the Hickory Station Drive right-of-way shall be reviewed and approved by the city engineer and completed at the sole cost and expense of the developer. All driveways shall be 22 feet in length. And unless in concurrent variance at the time of zoning approval, variances are to be considered by the Snellville Board of Zoning Appeals unless authority is granted by the UDO to the Director of Planning and Development for administrative variance consideration and approval. Now that we're through that, that's the 10 conditions I have and the 4 variances. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Jason, first on that, the variance from the UDO for section 202-6 about reducing the 40-foot site setback. What's the proposal for that now?
Now it's from 50 to 40, and that's to make up the difference between what they needed. It was in the rear, and now they've moved it forward. So it's basically, they went from the 50-foot setback to the 40-foot setback.
Okay.
It looks like a 30-foot building setback on the rear.
Yeah, because the denial that was previously,
Yeah, we need to take, that's why I read those in there.
yeah,
The ones I read should be right, because first, we didn't want to do it on the front, so we denied it, so they asked for it in the rear, but then after talking to everybody, we want to push it forward. So we're going to make sure that they can meet the required setback along Old Hickory per the code, and then get the 10 feet back on the front where it doesn't affect as many people, at least the existing neighbors.
neighborhood, okay,
That's the intent.
okay. Are there any questions of council for Mr. Thompson?
Mr. Thompson, would you go back to that elevation that you
Yes,
showed?
yes. 1 second.
And what I'm questioning, and this didn't catch my attention until you just showed this a minute ago, what are the landscaping requirements in front of a townhome? That little tiny whatever patch of
Yeah,
green
have to
there
have it.
looks, it's just,
There's more than that.
I sure
can't-
would hope so.
Specifically, I think that's just the way it's drawn to all you're really seeing. I think you have to have a streetscape, and they can only have so much pavement per site, but let me see if this helps. I think there's more plantings than that, because they're not even showing like the sidewalk trees, so there'd be trees and more than just what they're showing right there on these. The code would requires more than that.
Any other council members with a question for Mr. Thompson?
I have one. Jason, could you just briefly describe some of the advantages and disadvantages moving this property from commercial retail to medium?
Yeah, I think that's the
Density
biggest,
residential.
I think that's kind of the biggest benefit to this property is they've tried commercial a couple different times, didn't pan out. Even some higher intensity, then lower intensity, and then what you're trying to do is just buffer people in Old Hickory from any kind of intensive uses that you would typically find on Highway 78. And medium density residential is probably I think one of the best kind of step downs between the intensity of 78 and then to Old Hickory, because it's residents, maybe a few more per unit, but it's not as busy as like what was there before was a doctor's office, a pediatrician's office. It was pretty big. I think it was 12 to 15,000 square feet. The traffic calculations on something like that are probably 4 to 5 times higher than a residential use, even medium density. So you're going to have a lot fewer cars. You're going to get some new residents, and it's going to be homeowners, not a business, not going to be a dumpster there. You know, it's going to be just regular homeowners that are going to access, you know, their house from the front, which the cars aren't going to bother the residents. I think it's a benefit in this situation just because of what we've seen 15 years that's been proposed there that hasn't worked. I think highest and best uses is probably pretty close to it.
Any other council members with a question for Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, I have one. The entrance bothers me. I think that's an accident waiting to happen. If this were to be any commercial, what's the possibility of there being curb cuts on 78? I know
The
DOT
DO
doesn't like those.
Yeah, very unlikely. A lot of times when this one was platted, with the subdivision, those out parcels were built as part of that subdivision and submitted to GDOT at that time. And typically, anytime GDOT or Gwinnett DRT or even us can get the main drives off of 78, they're going to do it, and that's kind of what that side street is going to be utilized for. I don't know what rights they have to that connection in the front, but it's always shown since it was platted to go there. And the last proposal we had actually had that driveway coming out between what many know is, the gate keypad there, and it was, funneled out to the closest entrance of Hickory Station. And what these guys were able to do was to pull that back, so hopefully it doesn't become an issue with them getting in and out of their neighborhood. Another thing about that being residential, it's not going to be like pulsed timing too. It's going to kind of trickle in and out. Now it's not the 9 to 5, kind of like a commercial business. I think it'll have way less impact, but I can't speak for DOT. I don't know what they're allowed by right off of 78, but typically they want you on the side roads. They don't want you stopping on 78.
Any other questions of council for Mr. Thompson? Thank you, Jason. Is the applicant here? If you'll come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 15 minutes in total to speak for the project.
Okay, thank you. Duncan Corley, 270 North Clayton Street, Lawrenceville, Georgia. I'm with CKK Development. I'm going to represent this case tonight. So, since our last meeting, what Mr. Thompson had touched on, probably the main thing we did to the plan is this plan actually shows us sliding the whole neighborhood 10 feet closer to 78 to kind of make room. We're able to leave this wall alone that's encroaching on us, and then it lines up better where we can get in and out here, cutting across Hickory Station to take a left out. Some of the things we've done, obviously, we're proposing 27 units, 1,800 square feet. I think we've covered all that. I was just going to kind of expand on what he was saying, unless y'all feel like I need to reiterate. But at this point, okay. Sure. So you would come in right off of 78, and then we've added a decel lane here to help with the traffic flow. And then one of the things we feel is a pretty big benefit, discussions of the school bus and how they get in and out. Well, we've got a full-size cul-de-sac here, so I think this would actually alleviate the school bus problems, having to go here, make a U-turn. They could simply pull in, turn around the cul-de-sac and go left out. We feel like that's a benefit. We have been meeting with Old Hickory HOA for about a year now. So this project, we started it, we submitted, there were some issues. We've really beat this site plan to death. I know it doesn't look like much, but it's been, 5, 6, 7 iterations, little tweaks here and there to kind of try to meet everybody's needs, but also give us a viable project that we could move forward on. Another thing we've agreed to with Old Hickory HOA is to do a nice landscaping with some evergreens, fencing, and columns every 100 feet along the Highway 78 part of the project. Trying to think what else was really a hinge pin for it. I think those were the main issues we tried to work on, Mr. Pastel. I mean, there's some other things. We've got to have some shared drainage easements. This site was initially developed some years ago with the intent to be commercial. It's got a sewer stub out here, and then also there's some storm drainage up here, and so it was always planned to drain into that neighborhood, into the ponds. I think a little history on the property. Mr. Garner initially lent money to a developer years ago, and he may want to come up and expand a little bit on it, but he ultimately had to foreclose the property and has owned it for many years now. I don't know how many, but he's had a lot of maintenance, dealing with kudzu and just different things, and he's worked well with the community. And at this point, they've tried several different iterations of commercial, and it just, for whatever reason, it just didn't go. So I'm a residential developer. He brought it to us. We looked at it, thought townhomes would be a nice fit here. We think we've got a nice, attractive product that would go well there. And so that's kind of what's gotten us to this point. But I think what we're proposing is good. We're good with staff conditions. And I think probably Mr. Pastel is going to have a few things to say. I may need to come back up if there's any things we're not clear on. But for the most part, I think we agree on what he's going to say. And with that, I'd answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Corley. Are there any council member questions of Mr. Corley? No. Thank you.
Sure.
You have 11 minutes and 5 seconds left.
All right, thank you. Yeah, reserve my time.
Now, we've heard from Mr. Thompson about the project and then also from the applicant. So now at this time, we'll open the floor to the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak for the project, if you would please come forward and give your name and address for the record.
All right, so my name's Marvin Pastel. He referenced me. I'm the attorney for the Homeowners Association. Right? So my job is to make sure if you guys approve the project that we're good with it, okay? I don't know if that's necessarily for or against. I'm just trying to make sure we get what we need with the project. Let me first say that CKK, Duncan and Andy over there, they have been very pleasurable to work with. And we have come with them with several different issues. I'll run through them real quick, but they have met each one to our satisfaction. So I want you to know. We're working off of this plat here, which is not the one that Jason had up here. And, oh, is it? Okay, because this has a lot more notes on it. So, yeah, the one you had, Jason, only had just a few notes. Okay, so I want everybody to know we're working off of one with 31 notes on it. And the notes are, from my perspective, probably one of the most important things, because that's where we're memorializing the terms that we've agreed to. And that's been very generous on CKK's part to put them in the plat. And we do want to make sure that they get in the plat and that make sure we're good and everybody's in sync. You know, one of the biggest concerns we had was actually this entrance coming in. As you're leaving town, you have to make a left into the community for us. And during rush hour, that can be a problem. The traffic light doesn't have a kind of a lead green or a left-hand turn or a lagging left-hand turn. One of the notes in here, number 25, CKK has agreed to go ahead and petition GDOT to get a left-hand turn signal there, you know, during at least rush hour, which is will help everybody out, including themselves. Duncan mentioned briefly about the landscaping along the front here. We've talked about the sort of the fencing idea. Now this is sort of, they're going to do green landscaping, evergreen, in between the pillars. Right? We've actually asked for 50 feet pillars instead of 100 feet. 100 feet gets kind of really far, but it doesn't need to be tight enough where it's a lot of pillars and they run into a lot of expense. But we've asked for 50 feet. And that's also in note 23 on this more extensive plat. He's mentioned the callback. That is important. If you have any concerns about them sliding the property 10 feet closer to the highway, that really, really helped out everybody a whole lot because it allowed this entranceway to work with our call box. Before, when it was pushed back, it was a problem. And also, quite frankly, this brick wall that's back here is sort of an encroachment that the old developer left onto this property, and it helps out with leaving that brick wall there for us. So that is a benefit to our concern also. There is a restriction on leasing. We talked about an HOA on there. That note needs to be changed that we have on this proposal one. This proposed one just says no Airbnb and the like, which of course we're all in agreement on. Jason wants a 10% cap on the number of rentals, which we're okay with, too. But we did work out one agreement with the developer, if you're good with it, and that is, if he wants to sell some units as a lease to purchase option, that those units wouldn't count toward the leasing cap. So he can kind of finance units as they're selling. And I can read you the clause that we've agreed upon that we would want in the plat, subject to your all approval. And that would be note 26 would read, the proposed new subdivision will be subject to an HOA that will contain a restricted covenant limiting leasing to a minimum of a 1-year lease term, inclusive of any rentals on Airbnb, VRBO, or other short-term rentals, and that a maximum of 10% of the units shall be leased, except those units leased by the declarant under a lease-to-purchase option. So those would be exempt, but once they're then bought by the owner and title transfers, then they are subject to the 10% cap. It's just really a financing mechanism for the developer that we're good with. We mentioned about drainage being on our property. They're going to share a detention pond with us. They really already are sharing a detention pond because this property is already draining into ours. But it will require a new study to be done, which is memorialized in the note, and they'll need to enter into a cross-sharing expense to maintain that detention pond with us. We've worked out the pro rata based on the number of homes using that detention pond, and that's satisfactory to us. But those engineering plans will have to be still done and all worked out. So there's one other issue we have, which really is not CKK's problem. This lot over here on this side. So as you're leaving town, it's the lot you get to before. I'm going to nickname it the kudzu lot because that's about all it is, except for back in there, and I just took this on my way over there, there is a large pad for some reason on that lot. Right, this would be right across from this entrance right here where I took this picture. And the owner there is now letting RVs park there, we understand, for charge, right? Which is not what it's zoned for. It's zoned general business, BG, and Ordinance 206-2 doesn't allow for the storage of RVs or other kind of recreational vehicles there. So that's a major concern that if we don't keep an eye on that, keep that owner under regulation, that, you know, he'll let people from here use this for extra parking, right? Which that's our only concern. So other than that, I do want to give a shout out to Jason and his team. They've been great to work with. I mean, the city's blessed to have him. I mean, the city's blessed to have you guys. I rarely get out here, but I'm very impressed at all the development that's gone. So as long as notes 23 and 26 are amended to reflect our concerns, the 50 feet on the pillars for landscaping, and then the note for the leasing provisions, we're good with whatever decision you all come up with. All right? Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Festow.
Just a point of clarification, you mentioned that you wanted the spacing of the brick pillars and columns 50 feet
50
apart,
feet.
not 100?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And then that one leasing provision. Other than that, and I want to make sure you're working off of one that has 31 notes on it, not the old, like 24, I think it was.
We don't have that one.
They don't have this big one?
Not the one with more than that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that's the latest one I've been given that the developer wants to use and has the things on it. I mean, actually, this one's yours here, so I'll leave that there. Okay.
Okay, so we have opened the floor for public comment. We'll have to go through the public hearing first, Mr. Warner. If anyone would like to come and speak for the project, then please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Garner, and I have been the one to own the property since I had to foreclose on it, I believe back in 2006, maybe 2007. It was originally a loan made to a local developer that had developed the area where the CVS and the Waffle House currently are at down the street, and it seemed like a rinse and repeat scenario before the world economy fell apart. And at that time, the individual was unable to continue the project. I foreclosed on it, mutual foreclosure. He was a neighbor. And so I began to have to take care of it and wait for a better day. And a better day, here we are 2022, that's a long ways from 2007. I've only received 2 notices from the city of things that I did not do to the property in time. And I had to learn that noxious material meant kudzu. Once I realized it meant go bush hog the property, I took care of that. And I have chosen to have a relationship with the Homeowners Association, and we looked at it as a pediatric doctor wanted to come in and have an additional location, but according to the doctor, it took so long to get through the process, he forfeited his $5,000 non-refundable deposit and moved on and bought another location. So it came back into my care of what do we do with it next. And I would tell you that meeting with any homeowners association could be as difficult as a group of Baptists picking out carpet colors in church. But we have found a lot of commonality in the request for it. They have ideal things they would like to see. I would like for it to belong to someone else. And we have come as close as we possibly can with sitting down with Duncan and the group of individuals behind him. And so I just respectfully would ask that you would consider that this is a great asset to Snellville to bring in these quality rooftops as opposed to lighting that would go along with a commercial property. Currently, I believe that it is zoned for the pediatric center and related businesses, and it did have a right in, right out off of Highway 78, in addition to the entrance coming through Hickory Station. So this is even less impact according to that as well. So thank you for your consideration. I'll stop at that point. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Gardner.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak for the project? Then anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the project?
I'm not for or against. Tricia Rawlings, 2088 Harper Oaks Drive. I just had a question of clarification from Jason. Where is the fire hydrant?
Wherever the fire department tells it to go.
Okay, and can a fire truck get in this entrance? It's been okay?
Yeah, they have to design it.
Okay.
Anyone else? Come on up.
Good evening. I'm Daisy Russell, and I'm a resident of Old Hickory Village at 2052 Wickerwood Way. I'd just like for you all to consider if the number of townhouses that are being proposed is safe, and will there be enough room for parking, for entering and exiting, and for the citizens of that community to have the space they need, so that it doesn't overflow and present frustrations for the Old Hickory Village. I'd just like for you to consider if that amount of housing is what should be done for 3.4 acres. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one else, then I will close the public hearing portion And I will entertain a motion from council.
Madam Mayor, in light of a new drawing with 30-some different comments on it, I would make motion that we table until our next regular meeting, which is September the 12th. Do I need to be any more specific?
I don't think you need to be any more specific. There would not be another hearing.
Right.
The hearing is
There-
closed. This would just be for a vote.
Yeah, I'll be glad to opine if it gets a second.
Okay, so right now there is a motion to table until September the 12th. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second to table to the 12th. Any council members wish to comment? Discussion?
Just to be specific, whether we approve or disapprove, it's a matter of we have information that's been brought before us that we were unaware of. It's not in our city documentation, and it would be better for us to review all the information and make sure that we're aware of what what's been agreed to by the homeowners, by the developer, before we move forward.
Any other council members for discussion? Nope, so we have a table, we have a motion to table until September 12th, and we have a second. So I will call for the vote. All in favor to table to September 12th, then please raise your hand. That is 6 in favor with none opposed. So we have, where'd y'all go? There you are. So Mr. Corley will come back for the vote. And again, as the city attorney just mentioned, the public hearing has taken place tonight, so there will be no more public hearing at the next meeting. It will just be strictly for council members to make a motion and a vote. So now we will move on to item C, second reading, RZ 22-07 and LUP 22-06. Consideration and recommendation on applications by Century Communities of Georgia LLC, the applicant, and Hazel L. Lee and Brenda G. Lee, the property owners, requesting A, to amend the 2040 Comprehensive Plan future land use map from medium-density residential to low-density residential. B, to amend the official zoning map from RS-15 Single Family Residential District to RS5 Single Family Residential District for a 98-lot, single-family detached residential subdivision on a 25.052 plus or minus acre site having a gross density of 3.91 units per acre, located at 1689 and 1725 Rockdale Circle, Snellville, Georgia. And those are tax parcels 5060008 and 023. Mr. Thompson.
Please excuse me, I get it organized. Again, here tonight for this final case, RZ 22-02, LUP 22-06. Again, it's a rezoning and a land use plan amendment. The land use plan is being changed from a designation of medium density residential, which allows residential dwellings up to 8 units per acre, and being proposed for low-density residential, which is from 0 to 4 units per acre for what has now been revised to a 90-lot single-family detached residential subdivision that was well within the 4 units per acre to fit into the single-family residential. Low-density residential land designation. They all start sounding the same after a while. To be rezoned from RS-15 to RS-5 single-family residential district, as in the configuration that you can see above. The applicant is Century Communities of Georgia. There's over, as you can see, there's 90 homes. There's 5 or 20% acres of open space, with another 6% for active recreational use, which you can see on the northeast property. We would consider not necessarily a down zoning, but medium density to low density residential in the future land use plan is less intensive than what was prescribed in the 2040 comp plan. They have changed from the original submittal the access on Rockdale Circle to the one that's shown now. Was in the past was on the other side of Rockdale Circle due to some geological difficulties, and they did get that entrance approved. Bri Gwinnett, I think they'll have their engineer here to speak a little bit more about it. But as far as how it fits into the comp plan, the comp plan is supportive of low density residential uses within that area. That's what's predominantly there now, even though maybe a little more were built in the 80s, early 90s with a little bit larger lots. Is adjacent to that, you got Walden Park, Abilene, Brook Hill on the other side there, which was typically homes that were built kind of in that first development wave of the city, where everybody kind of enjoyed a 3/4 acre yard and on a larger lot. And now the market and basically the trend in most metro Atlanta areas, or metro areas in general, is for a smaller house or smaller lot with the same size house with just more amenities in the interior space, and then shared outdoor recreational amenities. And that's reflected here in Snellville over the last 20 years. I think this is what we've mostly done. We never specifically had a zoning district prescribed for it until now. It was always done with variances. So again, they've submitted that. They have no requested variances at this time. And from what I believe, there was some discussions during, they had a community meeting about, and one of the issues was the detention ponds and how they needed to be screened. And I'd like to introduce a condition that they introduced, just read it into the record to shield the detention ponds from view. So all detention ponds can be screened, will be screened, shall, from the view of Rockdale Circle, with a 6-foot wooden fence, a staggered row of evergreen trees 10 feet apart, placed 20 foot on center, and a row of deciduous trees placed 40 feet apart, with additional staggered rows of evergreen shrubs 4 feet apart between the deciduous trees to create a pretty solid buffer to anyone that's passing by. It's also to be known that the detention ponds are put in those locations because of topography, and there's a couple different basins actually there that they're running water into. There's a ridge through the center of the project. So we'd like to add that as to the conditions that we have prescribed in the ordinance, and I'll just kind of go through these. There's nothing really special in here. Number 1, holds the property be developed per this plan. Number 2 is the establishment of an HOA. Number 3 is the deed restriction, the 90% owner occupied. Number 4 is the limiting of a sign no higher than 15 feet or 225 square feet. The sidewalk and planter strip shall be constructed in accordance with UDO Table 401-4.2, where the development is adjacent to Rockdale Circle at the sole cost of the developer. All driveways will be 22 feet in length. In addition to the 20% open space, 6% shall be provided for recreational use, which is shown in the revised plan. And then non-substantial variance determined by the Director of Planning and Development for design, development, or zoning requirements must be submitted in writing for administrative variance approval. And then the additional condition regarding the landscaping around the detention ponds would make number 9. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of council for Mr. Thompson?
I forgot one thing.
Oh.
It's just some of the elevations of the different products, just to kind of look at.
Okay, now any questions of council for Mr. Thompson. Nope.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if a traffic study has been done?
No, per the UDO, traffic study is at the discretion of the planning director until it's half of a DRI threshold, which is the development of a regional impact. And I think that number for single family is at like 500 units before you have to provide it, so it would be 250. At 90, it wasn't required, and typically, and not to overstate or understate the impact of the development, 90 homes isn't really, you don't typically see traffic studies until about 200, just because the traffic isn't really enough to change the overall area, which has already been added to by other residents. And there's a couple, Georgia zoning law actually prohibits traffic as a main reason to deny rezoning, as well as schools. And I actually talked to Patrick Burke, who's the long-term capital improvement projects manager for Gwinnett Schools, and he said, just so everyone knew, that the elementary school and middle school are all under, there's room there, and that South Gwinnett always has more kids than they should, and most of the high schools in Gwinnett operate it that way, but there was plenty of room for the middle school and the elementary school within the district. He just opined that when we were talking about it, so thought I'd pass it on.
Mr. Thompson, am I correct that at 25.05 acres under the current zoning designation, they would be allowed up to 200.4 units?
Oh, yeah, up to 8. You could
Right,
probably
so that would be
but that's the math, yes, sir.
So, okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was looking at that right. Thank you, sir.
I think again there, when the comp plan was done, that was going to serve kind of as a transitional piece from 78 down into the more established residential. And at that time, I thought it would be, we might have to entice and use some medium density to bring in some developers there. But what's actually happened is you brought in a single family detached developer that's going to be able to provide a pretty good product within that without having the extra density there.
Thank you.
Any other council members with questions for Mr. Thompson?
I don't have it in front of me. Could you state what the street width is?
30 to 30, right? Back of curb to back of curb. 30 feet total per code. Good?
Okay. Is the applicant here?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name is Sean Adams of Parker Poe, 1075 Peachtree Street in Atlanta. I am here on behalf of the applicant, Central Communities of Georgia, who's seeking the rezoning and land use map amendment from RS15 to RS5 for property located at 1689 and 1725 Rockdale Circle. The applicant's original proposal, as stated, was to develop a 98-lot single-family detached home subdivision on approximately 25 acres for a density of 3.91 units per acre. However, in response and feedback from 2 community meetings and the Planning Commission, the applicant has revised their site plan, which has resulted in a reduction of 8 lots. The revised plan shown before you consists of 90 lots for a density of 3.59 units per acre. As a result, all of the lot sizes are larger than the 5,000 square foot minimum, with an average being at 6,341 square feet for lot size. You'll also notice the access point has been relocated to the eastern side of the property in line with Brook Hill Way. Our engineer is here and he will speak to that shortly. Further, the lots have been pushed internal to the development, allowing for considerable buffering and common space around the perimeter of the property, which provides additional privacy for both the adjacent residential and the new residents within the proposed community. During our last community meeting, we had 2 people who weren't part of the ownership group of the property who attended that meeting. One of the common questions had to do with the detention pond buffering that staff had referenced. We are amenable to that condition that he has added on this evening, and we do believe that it'll add to it. I do want to point out that the plan before you does not show that landscaping around it, but we would obviously do what is within the condition. The applicant's also requesting an amendment to the future land use plan from medium-density residential to low-density residential as a result of the requested density falling below 4 units an acre. The proposed development would provide a transitional density between the commercial retail corridor on 78 and the single-family residential further down Rockdale Circle, which is in accordance with the policy intent of the city's comprehensive plan. The homes will range from 2,400 to 3,000 square feet with 2-car garages. The style will consist of primarily fiber cement siding with accents of brick, stacked stone, or shake. The development is consistent with the policy and housing goals outlined in the comprehensive plan by providing a high-quality development that provides needed housing stock to the community. This time, I'd like to bring the engineer up to speak to the access point.
Thank you, sir, and we'll need your name and address for the record as well.
Good evening. My name is John Murder. I'm with Travis Pruitt and Associates. I'm a civil engineer, and our address is 4317 Park Drive in Norcross. I had a meeting with the Gwinnett County Transportation along with the Sentry, and we discussed the access points for this project. We originally had the access point on the southern portion of Rockdale Circle, and in discussions with Gwinnett County, we talked about two different things. One was the access point and the number of access points. The other was the existing condition of Rockdale Circle. The first point we talked about was the access point. We decided to move the access point to the northern section, and that was strictly a site constraints on the southern portion. It made it easier to access where we've got it now. Gwinnett County was indifferent to the location. They were fine either spot. There was no reason to discount either one of them. So we went with the southern or the northern section, like I said, for on-site constraints. They were okay with one access point for this development. The other issue we spoke about was the existing condition of Rockdale Circle, specifically the intersection, ironically, of Rockdale Circle and Rockdale Circle. This is not on their radar for a intersection improvement. I think there was some discussion about doing a three-way stop there. We were able to get that on their list to study, and they have committed to do that. There's no time frame that they would give us on that. They just said they'd put it on their list. So that is something that that we hope they can, they can do sooner than later. Are there any questions regarding the access?
Any questions of the council?
I have a question for Mr. Adams, I believe it was. And if we could take the site plan off and look at the elevations. These elevations give me a little bit of heartburn, I guess I should say. One thing I object to in some neighborhoods like this is you drive in and you just see a sea of garage doors that all look exactly the same, and that seems to be what stands out a lot of times in neighborhoods like this. Would you be in agreement with perhaps 4 different types of garage doors, some with window panels in them, some with decorative hardware, some perhaps carriage style, just to break up the look of all the same garage doors in the neighborhood?
Let me confer with the client. Yes, ma'am, we'd be amenable to that.
Okay. And then the other thing that I think would add a lot to these homes is on those that have a gable on the front. If there could be decorative elements on the gables, perhaps gable trusses or some other decorative elements that would add some architectural interest to these homes.
Okay.
Okay.
Getting a thumbs up from behind, so.
Okay. That makes me happier.
Very good. I'm glad I could be of help on that.
Yes, well, I guess I was addressing the wrong person then.
Any other council members with questions for the
Do
applicant?
you have any idea of what your mix of homes will be? Because you have multiple elevations, but they really all look the same. So if you have one next to another, it's really all looking the same with a little bit of fluff and buff.
Of course. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am Dakota Carruthers. I'm from Century Communities. So our mix is typically just based on, is actually based on the time. So it depends on if the home is spec'd first. If we go ahead and build the home, we can plan everything out beforehand. But sometimes kind of in the current market that we're in right now, things are moving so quickly that somebody wants to kind of go in and look on a piece of paper and pick their plan and pick their lot, and that's where it goes. So that's kind of where things come out of. I can't necessarily say where we would be at that time that we're building.
Any other questions of council for the applicant? Got it.
I'm familiar with the developer in this case. They've been doing a community here in Snellville, Saddlebrook for probably the last 3 years. And one of the issues that continually comes up is, since the very first grading of the property, has been siltation issues, stormwater issues, overflowing all of the devices that have been put on the property. If I'm going to move forward with approval, I need to make sure, and I know the engineer that was here tonight sounds as though he's more directed towards traffic, that those concerns will be addressed. We cannot have 9 to 10 inches of stormwater overwashing Rockdale Circle as we have over on Pinehurst. I have plenty of pictures showing the flotsam from the water where it has gone up over the curb, up over the landscaping. Currently, we have a blowout of it was approved by Gwinnett County, not by us, of a stormwater structure that blew out every bit of riprap that was there. And as we move forward, we just need to make sure that if we're going to have partners come in and develop in our community, that they're going to be able to take care of the issues. And I know we've had some really incredible rains. That's to be understood. Sometimes stuff happens. But from the very first grading on that development, we had stormwater that was exiting the development that was not contained by the stormwater structures. And we just need assurances that that will be dealt with on this development, particularly since it's directly adjacent to a stream and a rather major road.
Yes, of course. And so I'll speak to that. I've spoken about that a couple times with our VP of Land Development, that's Scott Urbizo. He has dealt with that before, and the extent of my knowledge to that was some occurrences of that in the past, some large storm events or rain events, heavy rain, one of those downpours that a lot happens in a couple of minutes where it's moving quickly and it's going down to the road. The times that I'm aware of, we have worked with Jason very quickly. We tried to get with our engineer with Jason and got those things, kind of brainstormed on some different options that we could do with the fencing and with the topping of the road. Ultimately, I believe in that scenario, we ended up going ahead and topping the road, which is what helps those catch basins get that. What was that?
Yes, I'm aware that it was topped,
Yeah.
and the issue is still persisted. And if anything, it's gotten worse rather than better. So, and I remember when the comment was made, oh, we'll top it.
Yeah.
When you top the roadway before the construction is done, what ends up happening is, whether it's the city or whether in the case of Saddlebrook, where I believe it's private streets, the people who buy the homes or the citizens are going to have to go in and repave the road that much sooner, because every cement truck, every dump truck, every work truck that goes across that topped surface is putting wear on the final surface of that road. So I appreciate the fact that they were trying, and I know exactly what the issues were in order to get this stormwater, trying to get it up that extra 2.5 inches, but that will not be sufficient in this case. We're looking at an elevation as you go by the site where the proposed entrance is, has a decline of probably about 10 feet. And I know it'll be graded and it'll be changed some, but you still have a negative slope coming down the main drive, the main entrance, onto the roadway. And then directly opposite is a neighborhood that has the exact opposite. They got a ski ramp going down. And so going forward, I would just say if there were a condition that said something random like the main entrance drive shall be designed with enough crown and slope to divert water into the stormwater system to keep silt and water out of the roadway to prevent stormwater discharge from potentially entering Rockdale Circle, would you all be okay with that?
That is random, and yes, with that random that came to you so quickly, yes, we would, we would definitely be okay with that, and we totally understand, and from our perspective, we of course want our buyers and our neighbors to have the best looking community that we possibly can, and that's typically why we try to top in the first place, because as you were mentioning, the crown, we're trying to get that into the catch basins as much as possible and as quickly as possible, and typically to spec, when you've got all the layers on there, that's hardened, and that's what's meant for all the traffic, and of course any issues after it's topped, that's something we have maintenance bonds, and we would take care of those afterwards, and we'd 100% we'd be in agreement with that condition, of course.
Oh, I'm new to this. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Could we go back to the detention ponds for a moment?
Yes, of course.
Seems like this additional condition here is going really far to hide those detention ponds, a 6-foot wooden fence, and all of these lovely trees. Has there been any consideration to putting these detention ponds underground, turning into green space instead?
Yes, there has, and I may let our engineer speak to that a little bit, because I know we explored that at some point, especially when we got to the 6% recreation area. We were looking at doing an underground with some kind of, amenity feature on top, but I'm gonna let John speak to that if you would.
Yeah, we can do underground detention in those areas. It adds expense to the project, and it also we have to have the right soil conditions to be able to do that. So I can't definitively say that we would or we wouldn't at this point, but further studies, we could easily do that if the site conditions allow. And I would also say on the entrance drainage that you mentioned, that is one of the reasons why we moved the entrance. The entrance where it was located originally was at the lowest portion of the site in that area, and there was going to be a steep slope down, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to move it. It would make detention in that area very difficult, and we would have to bypass some water from that. And so that was one of the considerations in moving it. Where we have now, we have a lower area next to the entrance where we can safely get water off the roadway.
So you would be amenable to a condition of underwater?
No, I would not.
Underground?
We would do it if we can. I can't.
If soil conditions allow.
If the conditions allow, site conditions allow, yes.
Gotcha.
Any other questions of the council for the applicant? Nope. Thank you.
You have 10 minutes remaining for rebuttal.
Now, this is a public hearing item, so I will open the public hearing and allow anyone who would like to speak for this development to please step forward and give your name and address for the record. Come on up.
I'm Gail Bobbitt, and I live at 2151 Alamo Court. I live about a street over from where this is planning on going. And I have to argue with you about your statement about the schools, because the schools are overcrowded. We have no way of getting out of our subdivision between 2 and 4 o'clock almost every day, because we have the main road, and that has the school buses, that has the public service for the school buses there. It has Britt Elementary. It has South Gwinnett High School. And then it has the kids that play football practice. So we are prisoners in our own subdivision. And putting all these houses in there isn't going to improve anything if you people can't improve the roads. We have no lights down there. It's just comes down the road and you're at a dead end. You can barely see Little Rockdale to make a right turn. And if that's where they're going to put their entrance, it's even going to be worse, because everybody's going to cut across there to get onto Skyland. So, I mean, they're defeating the whole purpose of where they're putting their entrance and their exit. And I don't think 95 more houses is going to improve anything in that area. It's just going to make it worse. You're already going to commit to the other project you just discussed. So why would you want 94 more houses invading that little area that is a racetrack? There's no police there except once in a while getting speeders. There's no lights there. There's one stop sign there, and almost everybody runs that stop sign. So I think they have to have a little bit more consideration, and they have to look a little bit further before they put in 95 more houses and just make a bigger mess of that area. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Bobbitt. Anyone else?
Catherine Hardrick, 2280 Buckley Trail. I'd like to piggyback off of my fellow citizen. I challenge what you were saying about schools, because according to greatschools.org, as of July, South Gwinnett, Snellville Middle, and Britt are at capacity. They're at a 5 or a 6 out of 10. Adding more schools is only going to put more tension on our educators, who are already stressed doing the work that they need to do. So I ask you to not have this 95 more houses on top of the other programs that are being presented here. Again, with what council member said about the drain and storm, this is on Rockdale Circle at the other end, where I came here before to mention to you how those new properties were built, and they said they were going to work on a storm drain and so forth. That's not happening. That's my neighbor's backyard now. All those beautiful trees were there. They were removed, and the drains was not taken care of, and this is what they have to deal with every day now. Ever since that development came in and built those few homes, this is what we have to deal with. And as you see, a school bus is coming through that puddle. What about the safety of our children who have to run on that water? They can do a hydroplane and so forth. We don't need to have that. And lastly, speeding. I came here before and I pleaded with you guys about Rockdale Circle has turned into a racetrack. That stop sign doesn't mean stop. From Quick Trip all the way down to the opposite end to Skyland, it's just a complete speed trap. The police, they sit where the Brookwood pool and swim tennis. Everybody knows that spot. They know it. They slow down, And then once they come past that, they speed up. I've asked that you guys do a traffic survey, a speed survey to see what we can do about that. I have my senior citizens that they walk, no sidewalks, it's not safe, right? So this development is only going to bring in more tension in that area, more traffic, more stress on our educators, this storm drainage issue. I don't see how they're going to resolve that. They didn't, and that development was only 4 or 5 houses. Now you're talking about 95. I don't see how it's going to get any better with that. So I'm asking you guys to reconsider and not allow this development to come into our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's 10 minutes and 5 seconds remaining.
Hello, I'm Glenn Bush at 1740 Rockdale Circle. And like I said, I mean, we can talk about the traffic, but even, you know, if you look at the drawings where the entrance is back here, it wants to come over, that's my driveway right there. And the biggest thing, if you keep looking, look at how far, when you go past, that turns all the way around. It just keeps going down. You know, I mean, thank goodness they're there, because I mean, they're there every 2 weeks. So I mean, you can pull the reports and see how many times the police officers are in front of my yard. And just, you know, I hate for someone to get killed. It's sad to go up there every time when there is a wreck, you know. I mean, I wish they would do, I mean, you can't stop a development. It's going to happen, it's going to happen. But I wish they would do fewer houses, maybe make the houses $500,000 a piece. They never said how much the houses were going to be at. I mean, they 400, 450, or I mean, that's all. But thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to make sure that what I did report, it was a statement of fact from the Gwinnett County Capital Improvement Projects guy. He's the guy that builds the schools. I spoke with him last week, and he indicated again that there was capacity at the middle school and the elementary school servicing that development. I asked specifically, and I can get his statement or his contact for anybody that wants to challenge that, but that was correct, and it was true from what I heard from him.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak about the project?
My name's Pete DeChadnade. I'm in 1930 Meadow Chase Court, down Rockdale Circle. My concern is Rockdale, that part of Rockdale that the entrance is coming out it's county run, and we can do things Snellville-wise going past the Y, but we've got a sidewalk that needs to go up on the Snellville side, a sidewalk that needs to continue down on the county side, and what is going to get done by the county. Thank you. Somebody mentioned 3 stop signs at that intersection. No way.
Anyone else that would like to speak about the project? Well, you're allowed one time to come up. Seeing no one else coming forward, I will close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and I will entertain a motion by council. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Adams, you get rebuttal time.
You have 10 minutes remaining, Mr. Adams.
I will not take that time. Just a couple points of clarification would be that it's 90 homes, not 95. I heard the number bounced around a few times, but it's been reduced from 98 to 90 homes. Also, as it relates to some storm drainage, in addition to the condition we talked about with you, 2019, Gwinnett County, revised their stormwater management requirements to where to some extent those things are actually overbuilt now. So post-development here would actually provide less runoff ultimately than pre-development to where it is today. So hopefully that helps there. We are in excess of the site distance requirements and do fully intend to comply with those, both as it relates to Gwinnett DOT and whatever city regs that we have. And then also, we did hold 2 community meetings. The first time, we followed the city's notification requirements for the first one prior to planning. No one attended. After that meeting, we took the information of anybody who was here and spoke and invited them to a second community meeting in addition to anybody within the city's notification requirements. Only 2 people attended that meeting. And as a result of that conversation with those 2 people is where that detention buffer condition came out. That was something they talked about. And lastly, the sidewalks. I think one of the nice things about this, if you were to approve it, is that we will be able to complete a key section right there heading into 78 of sidewalk, and then hopefully as other development comes or Gwinnett County deems fit, we'll be able to make that final connection to your downtown. With that, I'll be happy to answer any additional questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Now, I will entertain a motion of council.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, first we vote on the LUP. Yep.
Madam Mayor, I make motion to approve LUP 22-06, application to amend the City of Snellville 2040 Comprehensive Plan future land use map from medium density, which note would allow them to build 200 homes, to low density residential. That is my motion.
So there is a motion to approve LUP 22-06. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion by council?
I just think it's important that the citizens understand that we are voting to change it to low-density residential from medium density. So this would, whether we approve the rezoning or not, or the rezoning or not, this would require lower density than it's currently zoned.
Anyone else? Then I will call the question. All those in favor of approving the LUP 22-06, please raise your hand. That is 6 in favor with none opposed. So the land use plan has been updated from medium density down to low density residential. Now, is there a motion for RZ 22-07?
Madam Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve RZ 22-07, application to amend the City of Snellville official zoning map from RS 15, single family residential, to District RS 5, single family residential district, with the following conditions. The property shall be developed in accordance with the rezoning site plan, and this is going to be a long time, I'm sorry. Rezoning site plan Rockdale Circle tract dated 4-4- nope, I'm sorry, evident note received 5/17. Is that the one we're going off of? What's
8/3/2022.
8/3/2022. Thank you for the updated documents online. A homeowners association shall be established for the continual maintenance of open space, common areas, stormwater detention areas, and any structures which may be located within the open spaces / common spaces, including but not limited to the landscaping, retaining walls, columns, fencing, entrance signage, etc. Number 3, the development and single-family lots are to be deed restricted and imposed as a covenant upon each parcel to at least 90% owner-occupied fee simple single-family home ownership, while the remaining 10% of the lots may be used as non-owner occupied / rental units This condition must be incorporated into the homeowners association documents and recorded prior, oh, good Lord, it just moved on me.
Change the language a little bit from what we have in here, so.
Recorded prior to the release of any certificates of occupancy. I think I may have it now, Jason. Signs higher than 15 feet or larger than 225 square feet are prohibited. A sidewalk and plantership shall be constructed in accordance with the UDO Table 401, 4.2 streetscapes required while the development is adjacent to Rockdale Circle and at the sole cost and expense of the developer. Number 6, all dwellings driveways shall be a minimum of at least 22 feet in length, measured from the front of the garage door to the leading edge of the sidewalk, edge closest to the dwelling, and shall be wide enough to accommodate the parking of 2 vehicles. Number 7, in addition to the 20% open space requirement of the UDO, section 401-2-1, at least 6% of the site's gross land area must be provided for recreational use in accordance with UDO section 401-2.2. Number 8, non-substantial variances as determined by the Director of Planning and Development and City Manager for design, development, and zoning requirements of the City of Snellville Unified Development Ordinance must be submitted in writing for administrative variance approval consideration by the Director of Planning and Development. Number 9, garage doors to be a minimum of 4 separate designs with no 2 adjacent to be of repeating designs. The architectural designs shall incorporate additional dormers and or decorative gable accents or trusses. Number 10, it's over here bigger. The main entrance drive shall be designed with enough crown and slope to divert stormwater into the stormwater detention system to keep silt and water out of the roadway and prevent stormwater discharge from potentially entering Rockdale Circle. And then I believe there was number 11, which hopefully is all detention ponds to be screened from Rockdale Circle by 6-foot high wooden fence. And I'm going to say planting design to be approved by the Director of Planning and Development. Is that acceptable?
Could we add onto number 11, if soil conditions allow, all detention ponds shall be constructed underground?
Well, I'm not done with my motion, so you can't amend it, but I meant to say, and all stormwater detention facilities, or where stormwater detention facilities may be placed underground, that in lieu of fencing and planting, stormwater detention be subterranean. Did I cover everything? That is my motion. If follow along. All right, I'll try again. All detention to be screened from Rockdale Circle by 6-foot wooden fences and plantings, planting design to be approved by the Director of Planning and Development, or any stormwater detention facility that is built subterranean / underground may waive those requirements. I think that cleaned it up.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve with the 11 conditions read by Mr. Warner. Is there a second? With no second, that motion will fail, and we'll need a new motion.
Motion to deny RZ 22-04.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion to deny the RZ 22-01. Mr. Adams, typically when we have a motion to deny on the table, we offer you the ability to withdraw your application, or we can move on to a vote. The applicant, Mr. Adams, has indicated that he would like to withdraw the application. So do we have a change in motion to accept the withdrawal of the application?
Motion to accept the applicant's withdrawal of the application for RZ 22-04.
So we have a motion to accept the withdrawal of the application. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to accept the withdrawal. All in favor, please raise your hand. That is 6 in favor with 0 opposed. So the application has been withdrawn. So that ends our public hearing tonight. We have nothing under our consent agenda, old business or new business, so we'll move into council reports. And we'll start with Councilmember Solange Destang.
Good evening, everyone. To let them leave. Or?
Solange, if you want to give him just a second.
Yeah,
to-
that's.
Okay, if you want to go ahead. Sir.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My council report is going to be a little bit on a serious note because we've been having a few hiccups in Snellville around cultural sensitivity lately. But I touched base with Mayor Bender, and we came to an agreement, or rather I proposed an intervention for some of the cultural sensitivity things that were happening in the city. So I propose for us to, and when I say us, including me, right? So this goes for council, this goes for the police departments, all the department heads, for us all to follow a course in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, this course will be made available through the Georgia Municipal Association. And basically, the course will be for all employees who come in contact with the public. Okay? And I'm hoping that this course will serve to bring understanding, tolerance, and sensitivity towards other cultures. I know that this will be an awesome opportunity for all of us and will allow us to be able to be more understanding, and tolerant of each other. I, for one, am excited to get started. I've taken the course once before, and it was awesome. The conversation that developed through this course was very awesome. So I look forward to take the course again. And we're working on providing that for, like I said before, the department chairs, all of City Council, and also the police department, and eventually the boards. We'll all have to go through that. And so that's my council report, and I do want to thank you for coming out, and I want to wish you guys a good night. Take care.
Thank you, Solange. Councilmember Warner?
Oh, I've got a couple of things tonight. I'm glad somebody stayed around to hear them. Today was an awesome day out at Monroe Country Club. We had the Snellville Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association golf outing, where we raised approximately $8,000 to help support our police department in taking care of some of the items that come up that aren't in our general budget. In the past, we've, the Snellville Police Citizens, that group. has purchased not only our canine officers for use by the police department, but also some bulletproof vests, I believe for the dogs and maybe even for some of the officers. No, evidently not. I'm making all that up. Anyway, it was a great time. The rain held off, and the weather was about as good as you can get in the middle of August for a golf outing. And then last Saturday, let's see, I did something. What was that? We had a concert on the green where Departure, a Journey cover band, performed. They did an awesome job, and it was a lot of fun to interact with the band. Got to be a real groupie, and it turns out that a couple of the band members are actually from Snellville, born and raised. And the father of the lead singer, the lead singer was amazing. The father was a gentleman who was in the 101st Army Airborne as a combat engineer in Vietnam, and it was a delight to actually get to meet him, spend some time with him, and I certainly look forward to our next concert, which is sometime in September, maybe the 24th, for the Bruno Mars tribute called something or other. But it'll be on a Saturday, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for coming out. Have a great night.
Thank you, Todd. Councilmember Linsky.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's great to be here back in front of you tonight. I was not able to be at the last meeting just because the first full week of school, I contracted COVID from one of my students, so took a little while to recover. Still working on getting my energy back and all of my wits about me, so hopefully each day one step at a time. The Snellville Youth Commission will kick off their school year this Saturday, the 27th, here at City Hall. Our meeting begins at 10 a.m. and will go probably 2 to 3 hours, including some lunch, of course, for them. And I'd also like to say congratulations to South Gwinnett football off on their first victory on Friday night, 26-18 over Pebblebrook High School. And thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Christy. Councilmember Schultz.
Okay, my report tonight is about the community garden, and I think we have some, I know, who'd have thought? Farmers market or community garden. We have some slides I wanted to show you. We recently determined that it was time to replace the plastic cover on the greenhouse. If you'd go back to that first one, Erica, you can see that it was getting mildewed and torn in a few places. It had been on there for 8 years. So a group of guys went out last week, I guess it was, laid this plastic all out on the ground. And of course, then it started to rain as soon as they got it laid out. But they pursued, and they were able to pull that plastic. Kurt may have to explain how they did it. He's the guy that comes up with these plans, but they pulled it up over the greenhouse. There are the 5 very tired, dirty folks that managed to accomplish this task. So we have a brand new cover on our greenhouse. So I wanted you all to see that, because they worked pretty hard that day and came home pretty sweaty. What was that?
It's your watch.
Gretchen's Apple Watch is talking to her. Siri didn't understand what she was saying. Mayor Pro Tem Emanuel.
Siri, what did Gretchen say? First thing I want to mention is it seems like only yesterday, but Butch Sanders has been here for 10 years, and he's done an exceptional job, and I'd like to give him a round of applause. Second thing, I'm going to have to disagree with the previous comment. We do not have a cultural sensitivity problem in the city. There have been some isolated instances. Those need to be addressed. They were addressed and will be addressed. Prior to further conversation, Todd Warner and I both contacted Butch Sanders and said we wanted to sign up for a diversity and inclusion course that GMA was providing in October. And he thought it would be a lot better idea to bring it forward and bring everybody in. So it's definitely something that will help us do our jobs better. But my incentive to do it was so that we could do a better job and not in response to trumped up situations that have been isolated in the past. So I think it's going to be good for everybody. It will help us move forward as a city. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And in my mayor's report, just a couple of things. We had a couple of ribbon cuttings recently. One was Be Soulful restaurant opened in the Snellville Oaks Shopping Center. Very good food there if you like soul food. I encourage you to go out and visit Sam and Valerie. It is a family-owned business, and they have put their heart and soul into the business, so it would be great if we can give them a good Snellville welcome and everybody go out and support them. And then also we had Skechers opened a warehouse location. It is a regular big box Skechers store where the Fresh Market used to be, where the Best Buy, I don't know the name of that. Yeah, I know the stores. I don't know the name of the shopping center. Regardless, you know where I'm talking about on 124. The store is huge, but it was really nice, and the regional manager and district manager were there, and the new store manager, and so I encourage you all to go shop for some shoes. And that is all that is in my mayor's report, so I will close that and we'll move to public comment. I have a few names on the list. A couple were marked out. I think they were about the rezoning. So Tricia Rollins, you got 5 minutes on one topic, please.
Could I have my SNAP members come, please? In addition to State Representative Rebecca Mitchell, please. And Greg, if you could come forward. I'm Tricia Rollins, 2088 Harbor Oaks Drive. I am the liaison for SNAP. We started out this year making sensory bags for our police department, first responders, and the fire department. 1 in 44 children in our community have autism. My godnephew has autism. He has Asperger's. When he was diagnosed, it was 1 in 89. We're 1 in 44 children now. I had a conversation with Greg to see if he could use sensory bags in the police cars to address our children that may have, this is a soft animal. We have pull toys, we have headphones for when sirens are approaching. When an officer gets there and a fire truck may be coming, we have headphones. We have sunglasses. We have coloring books. We have, you would not think of something so simple being entertaining, but to an autistic child, it is. We have balls. We have State Representative Rebecca Mitchell donated squeegee balls. They love them, okay? We have the fidgety things, what do you call them? Spinners. We have tons of stuff in here for children to be entertained. These bags can go home with them. One of our SNAP members, Betty Ann Kuhlman, sewed these bags for us, and each of them have a message on them. So we're very appreciative to her. We have one for each of the supervisor cars. We have 2 for the fire department, the engine, and the response truck I think I've got now. He had to leave, I believe. He was going to stay, but he had to leave. But anyway, there's a lot of sensory stuff in here that the supervisors can pull out, and they can send home with the child. They don't have to worry about sanitation of anything. It's for 3 years and older. And we'd like to give all of our bags to the police department.
Tricia, that is a wonderful gift, and thank you to all the staff members and Betty Ann for making all the bags. It's a wonderful project. Awesome. Thank you so much. And then I had Shahara Ruth. Is she still here? Yeah.
Sorry, I'm being cautious. Good evening. My name is Shahara Ruth. I live at 2683 Newton's Crest Circle. First of all, I wanted to thank everybody for all the help they've given us in the Newton's Crest area lately as far as our traffic and as far as our issues that we've been having. I came tonight to really basically get some information. We have a parking problem with commercial vehicles and oversized vehicles, and we want to put up some signs that it is in our covenant for them not to bring those vehicles inside the subdivision, but we want to make sure that we are legally following the rules so that we don't, call you out unnecessarily, and it's something when code enforcement comes out that we can assist by already having the signs there to say specifically, you can't bring these in here. So we know that if we don't word it properly or we are not doing it the right way, then we cannot really call you guys to enforce it. So we're trying to find out exactly what we can say on the sign and what we can't.
May I comment, Madam Mayor?
That, or we can just get together with the attorney and the police chief.
Okay.
On what you need to do there. Did you have?
We've had this problem in a number of neighborhoods over the years, and you don't have to put up signs. All you have to do is either call code enforcement or call the police, and they will come right out and run those vehicles out. There's no need for you to put up any additional signage whatsoever. Our code already takes care of that.
Let me just clarify that just a bit. That would be in regard to the city code enforcement can enforce any of the city codes and anything that is on the public roadways. Your covenants, though, cannot be enforced by the police. Your covenants, if those are things that are in your HOA, so if it's that commercial vehicles can't be in your driveway, things like that. Unfortunately, unless it falls into a code violation of the city, those have to be handled by your HOA. So it just depends. That's why we're going to meet. But and I'm happy to talk to you further afterwards if you wish. But again, it just depends on what your HOA documents provide and what is an actual violation of the city's ordinance.
All right. Thank you so much. You did help get an 18-wheeler out of the neighborhood last week.
Those are very prohibited, yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Always con those.
Oh, okay.
That's all I had on the list, but the floor is open. If anyone else would like to come up and speak in public comment, you may speak for 5 minutes on one topic, please.
Thank you. We forgot to mention to say thank you to Councilwoman Solange Disdain for purchasing some bags to give to the police officers. So thank you very much for doing that. We appreciate that. And thank you for your votes tonight. We really appreciate that. And if I could just make one request, I did ask for a survey to be done for the speeding on Rockdale Circle a few council sessions ago. If I can get a written response as to what you guys are going to do with that. Are you going to do a survey to see if we need to do speed bumps or something of that sort? I really appreciate a written response. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, then I will close the public comment and entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, I know. There is a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. That is 6 in favor with none opposed. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Drive safely.